Welcome to the Management 978 Research Help Workshop. Before you start your assignment, here are a few tips. Take the time to plan. Think about how you want to answer each section of the assignment question. Look at the assignment requirements listed in the subject outline. Make sure you break the assignment down into manageable amounts of information. Take the time to think about the keywords and alternative keywords and synonyms to locate additional information and resources in the university databases. Take the time to explore those university databases, whether that be the university homepage, the library guides, or specifically Business Source Complete and ProQuest Central. To help save you time, I recommend mapping out how you're going to answer the assignment question. In the first box, we write the topic information. So topic 1, preparing cultural profiles for Hofstede's 6-dimensional models. We then look at the assignment requirements. The first aspect of the assignment question is to map and analyse 4 cultures, being Australia, Japan, Germany, Nigeria, using the Hofstede's 6-dimensional model. We can break this down a little bit further into 2 subtopic areas. So 1 is we need to provide the map, and 2, we need to analyse the 4 cultures of Australia, Japan, and Germany and Nigeria using the 6-dimensional model. The next section that we need to focus on from the assignment question is we need to provide an analysis of the possible implications of cultural differences for management. So we need to analyse, for example, the priority of tasks or the relationship and preferred management styles, the need for formalisation and planning, and we would apply that in this section. These are examples only. The final part of this assignment question that we need to answer is we need to make recommendations on how Australian management could minimise the negative impacts of cultural differences in their subsidiaries. So if we break this down, we need to actually provide a recommendation plus an action, which is the how we are going to actually minimise these kind of impacts. Once you've looked at the assignment requirements of the question, look at your map again and look at allocating a word count. Okay, so this assignment has 2,500 words. You are required to give an executive summary, which is generally 250 to 300 words, which is a complete summary of all aspects of the report, including your findings. You need to provide an introduction, 150 to 200 words, conclusion of roughly 150 to 200 words. Now we look at the word count allocation within the body of the report. So the first section, I would probably recommend about 700 words. The second section, 750. And for the recommendations, about 500 words. This is a guide only. It will change based on your information and your own analysis, but this is just a guide. So once you've broken the assignment question down into manageable chunks and you've allocated a word count, make sure you look at the subject outline to ensure that you include everything that you're being asked for. So for this assignment, you must include a title page, an executive summary, an introduction, and a conclusion. In your reference list, it is a minimum of 4 references that are peer-reviewed from academic journal articles from between 2009 and 2019. Each student within your group must provide an annotated bibliographic reference, which is in Harvard UOW style, and you must discuss the relevance and accuracy and the quality of the source in relation to your research. Also include whose is who, so put your name next to that as well. Each team member must provide a personal reflection and reflect on what they have personally learnt from undertaking the business report with their group members. And finally, you must complete a peer review report on each member of your team. So once you've broken it down and drawn a map and looked at the word allocation and the assignment requirements, now it's time to think about which keywords you're going to use to locate the information that you require to locate academic journal articles. So using topic 1 as an example, I've pulled 4 keywords that you could possibly use. These are not all of the keywords, just a suggested starting point. So from the assignment question, I've pulled Hofstede, I've pulled cultural differences, subsidiaries, and management. When we think about Hofstede, Hofstede is also known as cultural values, national culture, cultural distance, cultural dimensions. You also need to make sure that you look at those 6 dimensions, so things such as individualism and power distance, but you also need to combine this with the countries that you're looking at, so Australia, Japan, and Nigeria, and Germany. The next keyword that I would recommend is looking at cultural differences. So cultural differences is also known as cultural awareness, cross-cultural differences, and cultural diversity. Subsidiaries can also be known as foreign subsidiaries, subsidiary corporations, subsidiary companies, international staffing, workplace organisation, and so forth, while management can be problems, issues, and solutions. This is a starting point so that you could then go and have a play in the databases and find those academic journal articles you need to support the information that you're trying to articulate or analyse in your report. No matter what your topic is, the process is the same. So if you have topic 2, we run through the same steps. In the first box, we put what the topic is, so cross-cultural communications in organisations. We then look at the assignment requirements. So the first requirement is that you need to investigate different communication styles, types and preferences in Vietnam, Italy, UK and Australia. Here you need to provide an analysis on the different types of communication styles and preferences within those 4 countries. The next requirement of the question is you need to explain how do these different styles, types and preferences impact effective communication within culturally diverse colleagues. So if we look a bit further, we need to look at the impact, so on meetings, teams, conference calls, group dynamics, etc. The third component or part of the assignment question is to make recommendations on how management can improve effective communication within their culturally diverse teams. So here we need to go a bit further and provide what the recommendation is and the action and explain how we are going to improve effective communication. So once we've broken the assignment question down into manageable chunks, we then look at the word allocation. So this assignment is 2,500 words. So again, we're required to give an executive summary, so that's about 250 to 300 words. An introduction is generally 150 to 200 words, and a conclusion is roughly 150 to 200 words. We then use the remaining word count for the body of the report. So the first section, I'd probably allocate 700 words. When we're giving the second section, I would say 750 words. And roughly, when making recommendations, 500 words. This is a guide only, but it's a place to get started and you can sort of see how many words you can fit for this assignment. So once you've broken it down into manageable chunks and you've assigned a word count, we then go back to the subject outline and look at everything that you need to include in this report. So for this report, you need to include a title page, an executive summary, an introduction, and a conclusion. In your reference list, it is a minimum of 4 key references that are peer-reviewed with academic journals between 2009 and 2019. Okay, each student within the group must provide an annotated bibliographic reference that is UOW Harvard author date style. Describe the relevance, accuracy and the quality of the source in relation to your research, and please include your name next to which one that you've completed. The same for your personal reflections. Each student must provide a personal reflection on what they personally learnt while undertaking the business report with your group members, and each team member must complete a peer-reviewed report. So once we've mapped out how we want to answer the assignment question, and we've looked at the keyword allocations and all of the requirements, it's now time to think about which keywords we are going to use in the databases to find those academic journal articles we need to support the points that we want to make. So let's do that now. So when looking at topic 2, I've pulled out a few keywords: communication, improve impact, cross-cultural teams. These are a guide. There are additional ones that you can use. But when we're looking at communication, communication can also be known as communication style, communication preference, intercultural communication, and so forth. You need to combine these keywords with the countries that you need to talk about and discuss, which include Vietnam, Italy, UK, and Australia. When we're looking at how to improve or impact on this, additional keywords could be face-to-face communication, virtual communication, meetings, teamwork, and conference calls. Whereas cross-cultural teams can also be known as teams in the workplace, teamwork, multinational companies, cross-cultural differences, national culture, etc. Once you have identified the keywords and alternative keywords, you can then start looking in the databases to find the journal articles that you need to support the points you want to make for your report. So as I was saying before, if you've got topic 3, the process is the same. So in the first box, what we do is we identify what the topic is. So we are aligning global work practices with the cultural map. When we look at the assignment requirements, the first part requires you to identify and map the predicted preference work practices for France, China, the US, according to the Myers cultural map. So if we look at that a little bit further, you need to provide a map and identify those predicted work preferences and practices for those countries. The next requirement is you need to say what are the work practices that most likely to cause problems, and how do these different work practices impact effective interactions between professionals in different cultures. So here, if we break it down a little bit further, we need to look at the work practices that could cause problems and explain how these different work practices could impact effective interactions within these cultures and workplaces. Once we've identified these, we then link this to our recommendations. So we're going to make recommendations to our leaders on how the organisation can realign the work practices to have a positive impact on corporate culture of the organisation. So if we break that down a little bit further, we're going to be providing recommendations and also the actions which explain how we are going to combat these issues. So once you've drawn the map and you've broken it down into manageable chunks, you then look at allocating the word count. So this assignment has 2,500 words. You're required to give an executive summary, which is roughly about 250 to 300 words, an introduction, which is 150 to 200 words, and a conclusion, which is 150 to 200 words. We then, with the remaining word count, apply that to the body of your report. So the first section, when we're identifying and mapping, I'm giving myself roughly 700 words to answer that section. When we're providing a bit more analysis, when we're identifying the problems and explaining how this could impact the organisation, I'm giving about 750 words. And when I'm making recommendations and explaining how these recommendations are going to solve some of these issues, I'm giving myself about 500 words. So now that you've mapped out how you want to answer the assignment question and you've allocated a word count, you then need to go back to the subject outline and make sure that you've included every aspect that you need for this report. This report requires you to have a title page, an executive summary, an introduction, a conclusion, and in your reference list, there is a minimum of 4 key references from peer-reviewed academic journal articles between 2009 and 2019. Each student in the team must provide an annotated bibliographic reference, that is UOW author date Harvard, and discuss the relevance and accuracy of the quality of the sources of the information in regards to your research. Please put your name to indicate who has written what. The same with your personal reflection and for the peer-reviewed report. Once you've mapped out how you want to answer the question and you've given a rough idea of the word count allocation, it's time to identify the keywords from the assignment question to help you locate those academic journal articles you need to support the points that you want to make. So when we look at the assignment question for topic 3, I've pulled out a few keywords that I think might be useful. There are additional ones that you could be using. So if I look at the Myers cultural map, it's also known as interpersonal relations, corporate culture, national culture, and we need to combine these with the countries that we're investigating, so France, China, and the US. When we think of work practices can also be management styles, management preferences, business communication, and so forth. When we're looking at effective communication and problems or issues, these can also be known as conflict, issue, resolve, positive, competitive advantage, and best practice. So once we've taken the time to look at the keywords and think about alternative keywords that we can find additional information with, it's time to now look at the databases to find those academic journal articles we need. So if you have topic 4, the process is the same. We're going to draw a map to help us make sure that we answer all parts of the assignment question. So in the box number 1, we put the topic. So topic 4 is about leadership across cultures in managing virtual teams. When we look at the assignment question, the first part that we need to answer is we need to prepare an analysis of the advantages and disadvantages for organizations of working with culturally diverse virtual teams. So to break that down a little bit more, we need to provide the advantages for the organization working with virtual teams that are culturally diverse, and we need to provide analysis around the disadvantages. The next part that we need to answer for this assignment is we need to explore possible different expectations for preferred leadership styles of a Swedish leader with a culturally diverse team members from Belgium, India, and New Zealand. So here, if we break that down a little bit further, you need to say the expectations of all cultures and the preferences of the Belgium, India, and New Zealand employees in relation to the Swedish leadership style. Now, based off your findings from the 2 sections above, you're going to be making recommendations on how leaders can improve effective collaboration within their culturally diverse virtual teams. So here, if we break that down a little bit more, we're looking at recommendations and providing an action and explaining how we are going to achieve this. So once we've broken the assignment down and mapped it out, we then need to look at the word count. So this report is 2,500 words. It requires an executive summary, which is roughly about 250 to 300 words, an introduction, which is 150 to 200 words, and a conclusion, which is about 150 to 200 words. And now whatever is left over will go into the body of our report. So the first section, where we're providing an analysis of advantages and disadvantages, I would allocate roughly 700 words. When we're exploring expectations and preferences, about 750 words. And when we're making recommendations to our leaders, I would roughly give myself 500 words to answer that section. So now that we've mapped out how we want to answer the assignment question and we've looked at the word count allocation, it's time to go back to the subject outline and make sure that we answer every component of the report. So this report means that you need to include a title page, an executive summary, an introduction, and a conclusion. In your reference list, it must be a minimum of 4 key references that are peer-reviewed from academic journals between 2009 and 2019. Each student within your group must provide an annotated bibliographic reference that is in UOW referencing style, and you discuss the relevance and accuracy and quality of the source in relation to your research. Each member also must provide a personal reflection of their experience within this report, include your name next to both, and complete a peer-reviewed report of your team members. So now that we have mapped out how we want to answer the assignment question, we've looked at the word allocation and the requirements of the report, it's now time to look at the keywords that we're going to use in the databases to find those academic journal articles we need to support the points that we want to make for this report. So when I look at the topic question, some of the keywords that I would use would be leadership, virtual teams, culturally diverse, and effective collaboration. Leadership can also be known as leadership styles, management styles, leadership preferences, and you need to ensure that you combine it with the country that you're looking at the preferences and expectations of. So Swedish, India, team members being Belgium, India, and New Zealand. Virtual teams can also be known as global virtual teams, multinational virtual teams, and so forth. Culturally diverse can also be known as cultural differences, national culture, and so forth. And effective collaboration can also be known as international collaboration. Think about key competitive advantage and best practice. So this is a starting point that you can now use to search the university databases with. If you have topic 5, the process is the same. So in the first box, we look at what the topic is that we're being asked to discuss, and it's competing with integrity across cultures. The assignment question's first part asks us to analyse the cross-cultural ethical conflicts faced by global managers in the case that's being provided. If we look a bit further, we need to divide this into parts and describe each and explain their relationship, discuss the problems in regards to cross-cultural ethical conflicts that are being faced by global managers. The next part of the question that we're being asked to answer is we need to identify who are the stakeholders in this case, what are the positive and negative consequences of bribery for each stakeholder. So for this part, we need to provide those positive and negative consequences of bribery and link it to every stakeholder that we've identified. And then based off that information above, we need to use relevant corporate social responsibility theories to propose 3 potential feasible solutions to the company's business problem. We need to analyze the pros and cons of each solution, and according to you, which one is the best solution and why. So here, we need to provide those 3 solutions, including the pros and cons around both solutions, and then make an ultimate recommendation on which of those solutions is best and why. So now that we've mapped out how we want to answer the assignment question, we then need to look at the word count allocation. So 2,500 words for this report. The report must include an executive summary, so that's 250 to 300 words, an introduction, which is 150 to 200 words, and a conclusion, which is 150 to 200 words. The rest of your word count is now allocated to the body of your report. So the first section, going to give yourself roughly 700 words, the second section roughly 750, and when we're providing our solutions, about 500 words. This is a guide only, you may do more or less on each section. So once we've allocated a rough word count, we then go back to the subject outline and make sure that we have all requirements to write this report. So this report requires you to have a title page, an executive summary, an introduction, a conclusion, a minimum of 4 key references in your reference list that have been peer-reviewed academic journal articles between 2009 and 2019. Each member of your group must provide an annotated bibliographic reference that is in proper UOW author Harvard style and discuss the relevancy and accuracy of the source in relation to your research. Please include your name next to the one that you've written. The same with the personal reflection. Please include your name next to it and reflect on what you personally learned from undertaking your business report with your group members. And finally, each member must complete a peer-reviewed report of each team member. So once you've mapped out how you want to answer the assignment question, you've looked at word allocation and all requirements of the report, it's time to identify the keywords that you're going to use in the databases to find the academic journal articles you need for this report. Let's do that now. So when we look at the question, here are a few keywords that you could use: cross-cultural, ethical conflict, bribery, and stakeholders. So cross-cultural is also known as cultural differences, national culture, cross-cultural differences, and so forth. Ethical conflicts, corporate social responsibility, ethical problems, cross-cultural ethics, and there's a few others listed there. Bribery can also be known as consequences, resolve, trust, corruption, and stakeholders can also be known as management, leaders, employees, investors, customers, and so forth. There are more stakeholders that you can allocate. This is just a guide. There are more keywords and more alternative keywords, but we would use these in the databases to find those academic journal articles you need to support the points that you want to make. So now that we've created a plan and we've identified the keywords and alternative keywords, it's time to start looking at the university databases. We now start the search process at the university databases. So we use the keywords from the assignment question to locate those academic journal articles. The first example of my first search is I type in Hofstede Cultural Dimensions. Let's run this search. Based on those keywords, we receive 5,000 results, okay? We want to refine it to look for 2009 to 2019. So we change the date range down the left-hand side. We also want to make sure we tick academic journal articles to meet the requirements of the assignment. So under source type, we tick the box that says academic journal articles. The number of results that we receive is down to 3,000, okay? You can spend some time exploring these results, or you can think about adding additional keywords to narrow the search down and make your results more relevant. So again, down the left-hand side, under subject, there are some additional keywords that you can use. If we click on the Show More option, it gives us a list of alternative keywords that we can add to our search. The first one that I'm going to add is cross-cultural differences. Click Update. Now we've gone down to 203 results. Okay, take the time to explore and have a look at these. These results are a lot more relevant than the last search. So once you've tried one combination of keywords, it's important to try again using different combinations because you will get different results. For example, if we now change it to Hofstede, Australia, Japan, and Germany in the search box at the top, we get only one result. Probably not always going to be useful. So if you only get one result, try a different combination. As I said before, different combinations will get you different results. So now I've changed Hofstede to, in brackets, cultural differences, Australia, Japan, and Germany. By running that search, I get 46 results. A lot more, and I can go through and browse and see if there's anything that's relevant for my assignment question here. Make sure you always update the timeline, so 2009 to 2019, and you also want to make sure you tick that academic journal box as well. As you noticed in the last search, we were looking for the cultural dimensions of Australia, Japan, and Germany. It's important to also look at these separately. So we're going to run the search now of Hovseed and Japan, and we get 191 results. Here you could explore and see if any of those are relevant for your assignment. Remember to always tick that academic journal box and look at the date range. You also might want to include an additional subject term to help narrow the focus down even more. Make sure you answer all parts of the assignment question. So if we look at another topic, this time I'm going to look for cultural diversity and virtual teams, and if I run that search, I get 141 results. Here I make sure I tick academic journals down the left-hand side, and I would look at additional subject terms to narrow my results down even further to make them more relevant. Changing your keywords to those alternative keywords will give you access to different journal articles. So if I change one of my keywords to multinational and keep virtual teams, I get 67 results. So once you've used the university databases, it's important to go into some individual databases that help illustrate the depth of your research and will give you access to additional journal articles that you won't get in the library search box. So to access those additional databases, go to Library, click on Library Guides, click on Business again, and from here we want to be looking at databases for management and operations. And the first database that I recommend that you have a look at is Business Source Complete. Once you log in, we will now use some of the keywords from the assignment question to find additional academic journal articles to support the points that we want to make. So one of the topics was on cross-cultural ethics and management. So this time I'm looking for cross-cultural. You'll notice that cross-cultural is in double inverted commas because it's a phrase and I want both words to appear next to each other in my search results. You'll see that ethics has an asterisk after it, after the C. This means it's looking for ethics and ethical all at the same time. And the same with manage. After the G there is an asterisk symbol, which means it's looking for manage, manager, managing, all at the same time. So if I run this search, I get 604 results. First thing I do is change the date range to 2009 to 2019. I also make sure I tick that academic journal articles, and I might look at adding an additional subject term like I did in the library database. As you can see, we go down to 254 results. It's important to sort by relevance. So up at the top right hand corner, you'll see date newest. What we want to do is change this to relevance. So we click on relevance, which means that the more times my keywords appear in the journal article, the higher up the list it will go. Now the articles have been sorted by relevance, take the time to explore the results and find some useful journal articles for your assignment. It's important to try those combinations of keywords and the alternative ones that we identified from the assignment question. So instead of looking for cross-cultural, this time I'm looking at culture, bribery and ethics. When I run that search, I get 75 results. So again, I'd make sure I sort by relevance from the top right hand corner. I would also look at date range, and I would look at making sure that I've ticked that academic journal articles box as well. If I change some of my keywords, so ethics is also known as CSR, and I'm going to change cross-cultural differences. If I run that search, I get 37 results. Some of them would be very useful for answering this assignment question. Again, make sure you look at the date range, ticking the academic journal articles, and if you want, you can add an additional subject term to make it more relevant. Once you've looked in one database, so Business Source Complete, it's important to have a look at one more, at least. So the other one that I would recommend for this assignment is ProQuest Central. We now run the same searches that we ran in the other two databases that we looked for. The first search that I'm going to try is cross-cultural, ethics, and manage. Now manage again has that asterisk symbol because we're looking for manage, manager, and managing. Let's run the search. When you look at the results, we get 20,000. This is a lot more than we received in Business Source Complete and the library database. That's why it's important to try more than one database to find information. Each database has access to different journal articles. Just like the other databases, we'll use the refining tools down the left-hand side to narrow our search results and find relevant journal articles. We're going to sort by relevance, so the more times our keywords appear, the higher up the list they will go. We will make sure that we tick that scholarly journal articles box, and we will ensure that the date range is between 2009 to 2019. Now 20,000 results is a lot to go through for one assignment, so I would look at adding an additional subject term to narrow those results down. When we look at the subject terms, tick the ones that you think would be relevant for this assignment and apply them. Once you've explored those results, it's important to try those different combinations. If we adjust that search slightly and put the actual words in ethical conflict and management rather than the truncation, we get 7,600 results. Again, sort by relevance, look at ticking the scholarly journals option and the date range to 2009 to 2019. I hope this will help you get started with your Management 978 assignment. Just to reinforce what I've spoken about today, take the time to plan. Think about how you want to answer the assignment question. Map out how you want to answer it. Look at the word allocation. Look at all the requirements that's listed in the subject outline. Take the time to think about keywords and alternative keywords and synonyms. Make sure that you explore the university databases, whether that's from the library homepage, the library guides, Business Source Complete, and ProQuest Central. And if you are struggling at any stage, please come and ask for help. The University Librarian is available Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. for consultation. Please either send her an email or give her a call to make a time. And just a reminder, there is a report writing workshop coming up in a few weeks' time. Please check your SOLS, email and subject outline for details. This is with Joanne Dearlove from Learning and Development.